So, I bought a cauldron, a very big cauldron, which means, of course, obviously, it is time to make some very big soup. I absolutely have favorite recipes for soups and stews that are my usual go-tos, but there's one that I have never yet had the chance to try. Stone soup. It's a pretty popular fairy tale and children's story, and the basic premise, in case you're unfamiliar, a weary traveler wanders into town. They have no money, they have no food, but they have a clever plan. So what they do is they take a stone from off the side of the road, they put it in their little cook pot, and they add some water, they make a little fire underneath, and eventually someone wanders by and asks, "What are you doing? What are you making?" The traveler says, "I'm making the most delicious magical stone soup. It is almost done, but I feel like it's still missing something. Hey, you know, I see that you have some onions there. Would you mind sparing one just to add in? I think that's gonna be the perfect thing to finish this off." The person is intrigued about this stone soup magic nonsense. Sure, at the cost of just an onion, they hand over their onion. Eventually someone else wanders by, but they have carrots, and the next person has potatoes, and it continues so on and so on until, of course, there is actually a fantastic, delicious soup bubbling away, and everybody gets a bowl, they all share, and it's delicious, and then there's music, and there's dancing and celebrating, and it's all very lovely and wholesome. There's a whole bunch of children's books that are variants on this story, and even other media, like there's a Heather Dale song that is a reenactment specific variant, which is so cool. One sec. Anyways, I think it is a sweet story, and I also think it's a great idea for a party. What if you invited a bunch of your friends over for some soup and said that they had to bring something that was going to go inside the soup? What would they bring? What interesting soup would result out of this? Well, today, dear friends, we're going to find out. But first, I do think I want to get just a little bit more on theme. And there we go. I think that my potato dress shall be quite appropriate for reasons that I'm sure you'll see soon. Also, I've had this for like a year or two at this point and haven't really had the chance to go to a lot of events, so it is way too squeaky clean for a white garment. Absolutely not. Let's get it messy. So I already have my cook pot set up and ready to go, but before we can really do much with it, we do need to get a fire going. And you know, if we're gonna go with a theme anyways, I actually do have a flint and steel. I've never had the chance to use them, so let's give it a try. I also have a little char cloth here, which is just a charred cloth, and a little bit of extra tinder in some string that I pulled apart and made a little nest here. So let's, I guess, find out if this will work. Oh, I got a spark. That's exciting. I'm blowing on it to try and... Come on. I got something to happen. The char cloth caught a spark and did its thing. I feel like my string, my secondary tinder, isn't doing its job. Probably because I'm doing something wrong. Look at my little baby fire. Okay, I think I need to feed this for a little bit with some more leaves and bits, but be right back. Alrighty, so full disclosure, it did take 3 char cloths. The first one that I got to go in flames, it did fizzle out. I went and put a bunch more leaves in there, like old dry pile of leaves, put in there, and did it again. Wasn't able to get a flame. Third time, got a flame, had way more like light tinder stuff in there, and so is going. I'm gonna go ahead and put you down and go get some more small sticks and stuff to toss in there to try and like keep it on flame until the big logs are for sure caught. The fire is now blazing away nicely, and I'm gonna go ahead and let that go now for an hour or so, because I don't actually want fire underneath the cook pot. What I want is like the coals that happen after it's been burning for a while. So while that is doing its thing, let's talk food, shall we? Unfortunately, I don't live near a bunch of my friends at the current moment, so I cannot have said party that I think would be a fun party. But I do have lots of digital friends that can digitally send me some things. So let's see what they've got.
Hey Morgan, thanks for the invite. I brought you some bacon.
Perfect. I think this is actually going to go in first.
Hey Morgan, I hear you're making a stew. Here is some Spam and here is some kimchi to add some spice and some salt.
These are going to be so good.
I have for your consideration beans.
Nice.
I brought ginger for the soup.
This will be so good.
I bring you potatoes.
Much obliged.
Soup ingredients? Oh, I think we can help you out. You can't have soup without an onion.
Excellent.
You said we could provide a sauce or a protein or a vegetable, and I, ever the overachiever, decided to provide all of those things in the form of chicken teriyaki ramen. Specifically the chicken teriyaki ramen that you left at my house last time you visited. Enjoy!
Thanks for that.
Hi Morgan, so you asked me for an ingredient for your soup, so I've got some typical Dutch ingredients. It's Gouda cheese, or as we call it, Gouda kaas.
I heard you were making a soup, so I brought some, my hand is sore. I brought some rice.
Shit, I owe you something for the soup, right? Right, okay, 1 second. Here, take the HelloFresh. I don't know what's in it, but you can just use whatever ingredients you need, I guess. Yeah, here, take it.
Well, thank you. HelloFresh is always fantastic, although I think that I'm going to go ahead and make this lunch instead of adding it to the pot. This is probably an excellent time to talk about the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. We have been using HelloFresh for a long time. Like seriously. I like to keep the recipe cards, that way I can write little notes about what I thought about it and be able to reference the recipe again. We used to get home each day after work and just have no mental energy left for deciding what on earth we were gonna do for dinner. And HelloFresh has absolutely solved that for us, because at least several meals per week are already taken care of. So we get a fresh cooked meal without having to do a bunch of meal planning the week before. I know some people really love doing that, but it's just not my jam. Present soup making video excluded. I like that the meals all come pre-portioned with just the right amount of food for the dish, because I feel like we end up throwing away a lot less spoiled food. There's never half a head of lettuce that ends up going off before you finish it. All right, we are all done. Just a couple last few things. I do really love how incredibly flexible and customizable this whole thing is. You can pick vegetarian meals or not. You can do 2 people, 4 people. You can add desserts and snacks. You can change what sort of meals you get each week, or you can just take whatever they send you. Like, the level of adjustability is something really, really cool, and just, as I said, I really, really enjoy it. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code Morgan16 for 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. All right, back to the soup. Now I have all my fantastic ingredients that everybody has kindly offered to me digitally. And I think this is working out pretty well, but maybe in the spirit of, there's just one thing missing, I think I'd like to do a little bit of a audience participation ingredient to come in. So I did go ahead and post on Instagram a poll asking, what would you bring if you had a friend that said, come on over, I want you to bring something to add to my soup. I just, whatever you have works fine, just something to make it a little better. What would you bring? And so let's talk about the results. You guys had so many different things that you recommended for bringing to a party, theoretically, and I went ahead and made a beautiful pie chart here of all of them. Now, there was definitely some things that were obviously favorites, like potatoes. Everybody loves some potatoes, but there were also a lot of things that I felt like maybe we could combine them together. For example, tomatoes, tomato paste, and sun-dried tomatoes. They don't need to be separate items. They are different ingredients that do different things, but for the sake of kind of like getting statistical averages-ish, I wanted to go ahead and combine them together. And I tried to apply that same logic. So the onions and the leeks and the garlic, that all went together. All the different like flavoring type items, I put them together and made this new gathering of items. For potatoes, there was also like sweet potatoes and radishes and turnips and parsnips and a bunch of stuff. Carrots is kind of the weird one. That carrots is part of the potatoes list because I feel like it's a root vegetable, but it also kind of fits well with the other vegetables category. My lovely friends so far have provided a lot of items that kind of nicely go around the whole wheel here. I felt like there were some major spots missing, so I did decide to kind of take some of the big items here that you guys recommended, like I added carrots, I added garlic, I added just several more spices to try and make it really fit in that herb and seasonings category. And so my final result with kind of additional things added in, I feel like does a pretty good job of nicely, roundly representing what a community contributed stew or soup might be. I will try to include all of the different ingredients as well as best as I can, the proportions in the description down the video. I don't imagine why anybody would want to make this, but it might be fun to know at least. So I did in fact add all of those extra delicious things to the soup. Thanks so much for adding that last little bit of necessary tastiness. I have added all of my ingredients at this point, so now we are just stirring and waiting. I think it'll be maybe another hour or so for everything to fully kind of cook through and meld together, and then we get to give it a try. It's maybe not 100% done, but I think it is at least cooked through enough to give a try. Wow, it has been a very, very long day. I guess let's see if it was worth it. Potatoes and rice both seem to be cooked through, which are the ones that I was like the most worried about. You can absolutely taste the pork products. I really, really like the addition of the kimchi. It was a spicy one, and like the bits of cabbage and stuff. Very good. The ramen noodles are visually odd, but as far as like eating texture, it's fine. It basically kind of fits in with the rice. Honestly, it's good. I could definitely understand someone being visually turned off. It is an eclectic mix of items. But I don't know, like they work fine together. It was a very big day. And I'm still not done because I need to go ahead and put all of that into like Tupperware containers so that I can put some in the fridge, but most of it in the freezer. It's both more and less than I thought it would be, like volume wise. It's gonna be several tasty dinners though. It actually reminds me a lot of, especially with the ramen, it reminds me a lot of meals that I would have as a kid, where my parents would take ramen and add, you know, various vegetables and meat that whatever we had in the fridge, and just kind of make it work. This feels very similar. All right, I think the frogs are telling me that it's time to say goodnight. Thank you guys so much for joining me on something that I've always wanted to do. It was very fun, very silly. Would do again, although with actual, like, physically present friends. Like, it'd be a good time.